on The Proof is Out There. More than 20 years ago, Navy pilots filmed one of the most consequential UFO videos in history. And now, we're bringing you another one.
Watching this light emerge from the water and then go into the air, I've never witnessed that ever in my life.
8,500-year-old wheels found in the deserts of Jordan. How did they get there?
Some say that the gods created them. Others speculate that it was aliens. But what they mean and what purpose they serve are still a mystery.
A massive object captured on radar. Did a famous writer have it right?
A lot of people have wondered if Cthulhu, as we know him, exists in our world today as a living, breathing organism.
Could the Aurora Borealis be powering UFOs?
You see this charged energy hitting the Earth, and some people believe that aliens are using that energy.
And is this microwave haunted or picking up top secret chatter?
We hear this talking noise. So I walk into our kitchen and realize that sound was coming from the microwave.
Around the globe are videos, photos, and sounds that defy explanation.
We don't know where they come from, who made them, or how they operate.
What are they?
Some sort of bizarre mutation.
What's exciting is nobody really knows.
Extraordinary claims need extraordinary proof.
I'm Tony Harris, and as a journalist for more than 30 years, I've followed the facts where they take me. Now I'm bringing that spirit of investigation to the world's strangest sounds and images.
It's coming towards us.
We'll analyze each one with top experts.
It's a credible case, it's a credible video.
And pass a verdict on what it is.
This video was clearly faked.
The Proof starts now. Good evening and welcome to The Proof is Out There. More than 2 decades ago, Navy aviators from the USS Nimitz encountered this UFO about 100 miles off the coast of California. That video was shot from the left wing camera of an FA-18 Super Hornet. And the pilots who saw it up close say it looked like a giant tic-tac, a smooth, white, wingless object that traversed both air and water and outperformed their own aircraft. It produced years of speculation, even government hearings, and now another tic-tac video has emerged. It is just past 7 p.m. on February 15th, 2023, and the Navy's USS Jackson combat ship is just off the coast of San Diego, California, not far from the site of the 2004 tic-tac encounter in a special use airspace area known as W-291.
An operations specialist on board the ship, Alexandro Wiggins, observed something unusual on radar, and he took to the deck to make an observation with the naked eye, and he witnessed some kind of structure or light emanating up from the waterline.
Watching this light emerge from the water at a distance and then go into the air with a solid light, no blinking or anything, I've never witnessed that ever in my life.
Wiggins went back inside the control room to check his radar screen, where he and other sailors witnessed 4 objects, at which point they began recording with the Sapphire system.
The Sapphire, an infrared sensor that detects heat, focuses on 2 of the objects flying from right to left in perfect synchronicity. The monitor punches in on one of the objects, revealing the familiar tic-tac shape, apparently hovering over the ocean. Moments after the video ends, Senior Chief Wiggins says the watch team zooms out on the monitor just in time to see all 4 objects shoot off simultaneously. Though odd, the objects show no hostile intent, so it goes unreported until April 2025, when investigative journalist Jeremy Corbell gets a hold of the video and releases it to massive media coverage.
The video just caused astonishment because these things have been a repeat presence in those waters, including the original Tic Tac video. And Jeremy Corbell also released the USS Omaha video, which captured one of these objects splashing down.
What was splashed?
In fact, original reporting on the History Channel series Unidentified Inside America's UFO Investigation revealed that the 2004 Tic Tac was even seen on sonar.
Sonar said they got a hit. According to one of the sonar guys, they were going 70+ knots under the water.
We've known that the Navy has been dealing with these USOs now for decades. In fact, there's some reporting that's come out where you actually have whistleblowers from the U.S. Navy coming out and talking about some of their experiences, most notably the USS Hampton that was in the late 1990s during an operation, had detected something moving very, very fast. And some of the individuals actually on that submarine who detected this estimated the speed was faster than the speed of sound.
The location of that incident has not been disclosed. But are these repeated incidents, all in the same area, evidence of something greater than just a few flying objects?
These are all just theories, but one that makes the rounds among naval personnel is the potential existence of an underwater base from which these objects emerge and return to. It's, of course, just a speculative hypothesis, but these objects have been variously reported or witnessed emerging from the waters off the coast of San Diego. The collective details are just extraordinary.
This new Tic Tac video hasn't just wowed the American public. It was even shared with Navy aviator David Fravor, who encountered the first Tic Tac back in 2004. He said he was stunned by the similarities. Let's see if our experts have the same reaction. This was February 2023, just days after a Chinese spy balloon crossed America, setting the nation on edge and ultimately leading to a shoot-down just off the East Coast. Could these be intelligence-gathering inflatables?
I took a look at the weather on that day, and you had winds from the west at about 6 miles an hour. So if they were balloons, you would see the balloons going with the wind in one direction, and it doesn't do that.
That still doesn't rule out a foreign incursion, though. We know drones have been an issue over military bases and U.S. soil, and the suspicion is that they are the work of adversarial nations. Is this video proof they might be toying with our Navy, too?
I will point out that the motions you see could be done by drones, including the synchronicity, but you also have a situation where these people described it as being that they instantaneously shut off. And they were talking about a really, really incredibly fast speed. And so that doesn't sound like a drone.
Since this is special use airspace, could these be special aircraft, perhaps part of a secret military test?
Could they be doing a test that the Jackson wasn't aware of? Yeah, maybe. We have the signal transmedium type thing. Submarine launched ballistic missiles do that. But if it was a missile, it'd be moving fast. And the size of that object would get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until it was gone. All right. That would have happened very quickly. And in this case, it didn't go away.
With those possibilities eliminated, the question becomes, were these UFOs?
Well, I believe that they saw the Tic Tac because you had a very clear observation by a witness visibly that it was being picked up on radar, was also being picked up in this thermal imaging system. All those things combined put it into a very strong case of being an unknown.
Our verdict? Genuine UFOs. Remember, even though the video mostly focused on one Tic Tac, all four of these things were seen shooting off almost instantaneously, making them all unidentified flying objects. The release of these Tic Tac videos could be having an impact. Recently, the U.S. National Archives opened the floodgates on decades worth of UFO documentation. Believe it or not, cattle are amazing creatures. They have nearly 360-degree vision and can smell odors up to 6 miles away. Are they interesting enough for aliens to study? This video might be the proof. May 2020. It's a quiet night in a barn on a rural farm, exact location unknown. A herd of cattle is standing peacefully in their pens, but around 11 p.m., the motion-activated camera captures something extraordinary. A fully grown bull comes bursting in through the ceiling. Miraculously, the bull appears unharmed. Now watch, as the bull struggles, a strange bright orb floats across the screen from right to left. After a few seconds, the bull manages to lift himself off the stanchion and walk away as if nothing happened. An anonymous poster soon uploads the video online, where it immediately begins garnering hits.
This video kind of ties into the classic story of cows being beamed up onto spacecraft, studied and analyzed, and then dropped back down into their pasture. Some UFO believers say the glowing orb crossing in front of the camera is all evidence that this cow was just returned from a UFO.
But where does that idea come from? The answer is darker than you might expect.
The idea of cow abduction by UFO really started after a wave of cattle mutilations in the mid-1970s. Farmers were finding their cows dead in their fields, but curiously, their eyes, ears, genitals, and tongues, among other organs, had been removed, and with such surgical precision, it almost looked like it was done by an intelligent species. Some farmers claimed to have seen lights in the sky over the site before they found their cows mutilated.
This bull is still, thankfully, intact, but incidents like this are strikingly common.
There are, strangely, many stories of cows falling from the sky. In November of 2007, near Lake Chelan, Washington, a 600-pound cow fell off a mountain and landed on the roof of a minivan of a couple just trying to celebrate their first wedding anniversary.
Holy cow! This video is intense. But seriously, it is hard to imagine any animal surviving such a fall. Is it possible this creature had a late-night date with a UFO? Let's move on to our experts for analysis. Okay, no more cow puns. Some online speculate this bull could have been thrown by a violent storm. But is there any evidence of that?
There have been known instances of tornadoes picking up livestock, but when we look at the video, there's nothing that leads me to believe that the wind is strong. The debris that we see immediately after the cow falls vertically. There is no horizontal movement.
So could this bull have truly fallen from a UFO?
If a cow fell a great distance from a craft, like hundreds or thousands of feet, it for sure would not survive. It would die on impact. Even if it's not from that large of a distance, they're not great at withstanding falls due to their body structure.
With its stocky, compact body, a cow can't distribute the weight of a fall the way, say, a tiger could. The entire force instead concentrates on its fragile legs. A fall over 20 feet would injure a cow, and 40 feet would probably kill it. It's likely this bull didn't fall more than 10 feet, which is an important clue.
If we go back to the start of the video, go by one frame at a time, something you notice is that this portion of the roof here is actually starting to bend, which indicates to me that it's not the cow hitting the roof. It would indicate to me that the cow is already on the roof and the roof is just starting to give way.
And the orb in the background? That's likely just the flashlight of a worried farmer checking on his livestock after spotting the bull on the roof. But what was it doing up there in the first place?
What may have happened is that part of the roof was low enough to the ground that the cow could climb on it, or perhaps it was close to a hillside and the cow could get on the roof by climbing onto the hill first. But a cow, just like a lot of other animals, is probably just curious, and why not go on the roof?
Our verdict? Roof collapse. We don't know whether or not Other cows have had secret liaisons with extraterrestrials, but the idea that this guy was abducted by aliens is just a bunch of bull. Seeing the Aurora Borealis or the Northern Lights is certainly on my bucket list, and Canada is a great place for it. In certain parts of the country, they appear up to 300 nights a year. But one Canadian family says they recently saw something just as amazing and a lot more unexpected. May 10th, 2024. It's between 10 and 11 p.m. in Kelowna, British Columbia. Bobby Vandenhorn and his family are gathered on his rooftop patio, hoping to catch a glimpse of the Aurora Borealis.
The Aurora Borealis is a beautiful natural phenomenon. Essentially, as the sun is giving off solar energy, it's flying through space and it slams into the Earth's atmosphere. All of those charged particles interact with the various molecules that make up Earth's atmosphere and burn up into light. And we get this spectacular, beautiful light show as a result.
But as the Vandenhorn family waits for the lights to appear overhead, something else catches their attention.
What is that?
Bobby records a cluster of 5 bright white orbs twinkling in the distance.
Oh, and now they're bunching all together? Oh my goodness.
And that's just the start. As the night goes on, Bobby takes several more videos of strange light formations, and he says the footage doesn't capture the half of it.
I probably saw about 20 plus groups of those orbs, and each group had anywhere from 2 to 3 all the way up to 25 to 30 of them.
Bobby posts the video online and even submits it to the local news, where it draws thousands of eyes.
I couldn't help but think, maybe there's a link between what's going on with the Aurora Borealis. Whatever energy comes into the atmosphere from that, perhaps those little orbs use that energy to fly.
What is that?
It turns out the Northern Lights have been especially active lately. In 2024, they were even visible as far south as Florida. Scientists say that's because the sun is in its solar maximum, the peak of its 11-year cycle. Can solar activity explain Bobby's unusual encounter, or will our experts find another source for his sighting? At times, the lights form a V-shape, so we have to consider if they could just be a V-shaped aircraft.
There's a number of aircraft that could match the V shape that we see. The B-2 bomber has a V shape to it. But what they don't have is independent lighting that moves relative to the other lights on board. These lights are actually moving independently. So this is why I think there are 5 independent objects.
What are those 5 independent objects?
The way these lights are moving, it almost seems like a choreographed movement. I think there is a high probability that what we're looking at are drones. This particular day was one of the largest geomagnetic storms to ever hit the Earth. We know that there are a lot of people with their eyes on the sky. And given that the Aurora Borealis hasn't started yet, these drones could be the pre-show.
But if this is a drone show, it's not a particularly visible one.
He had to zoom in to be able to show them better. That's because they were at a relatively high altitude. They might have been at 3,000 feet or 4,000 feet. Drone shows don't occur high up in the sky. They generally occur down low to the ground. And we're not seeing that here.
Instead, like the aurora itself, these flying objects may have a natural explanation.
If you watch Canada geese, you'll see something really impressive. You'll see that the leader is in front during the brunt of the forces hitting him. When the leader gets tired and drops back into the V, another leader will emerge, and we could be seeing these two coming up to the lead.
Now, we've seen reflective birds mistaken for UFOs before. However, those had an obvious light source beneath them, a greenhouse. But these don't.
Birds don't produce their own light. If we were looking at birds, there would have to be some sort of light hitting those birds and reflecting back to the Earth. We don't see that here.
Our verdict? Unexplained objects. Between our two experts, we can't make a call one way or the other. We'll have to wait and see if any more UFOs emerge from this intense solar activity. Poltergeists are known to haunt houses in a variety of ways, slamming doors, moving furniture. But can they also take over kitchen appliances? Before you answer, take a listen to what this microwave oven was serving up. It's July 2024 in Knoxville, Tennessee. Cecilia and Aaron Hill are home alone when their circuit breaker trips. But when the power returns, something strange happens.
And we hear this talking noise, and we think it's just one of the kids' toys. So I walk into our kitchen, and I don't see anything there. My wife kind of met back in the kitchen, and then we looked at each other, and we realized that sound was coming from the microwave.
There's a strange gasp and deep breathing along with a psychotic voice quickly mumbling the chorus to two hit pop songs. Listen again.
It did send, chill down my spine where I was like, this sounds very, very weird. We had no idea what it was.
This crazy story went crazy viral. Many suggested that this microwave was either haunted by a poltergeist or accidentally picking up some type of encoded secret message broadcast from a clandestine number station.
Number stations are pirate shortwave radio stations that send out coded messages to intelligence agents that were used beginning in World War I and most famously during the Cold War. Typically, they'd start with something like a short melody, and then there would be a string of letters and numbers for whoever the recipient was to decipher.
Using shortwave radio, a spy could beam signals off the ionosphere to agents almost anywhere on Earth. But since anyone could listen in, the message had to be decoded from numbers to letters using a special key called a one-time pad. One broadcast, called the Lincolnshire Poacher, is believed to have aired for decades from an MI6 site in Cyprus. This technique is still considered effective today, since it can't be jammed or traced like a digital signal.
This message is really difficult to understand, and maybe that's because it's a secret message.
Back in 2022, media around the globe profiled a British man who was trying to give away a refrigerator that he believed was haunted by his stepmother. Sick and tired of the ghost criticizing his cheese intake, the man said the pristine appliance was free to anyone willing to come get it. Could this microwave be the perfect companion piece? Let's go to the experts. Could this microwave be projecting something ghostly?
I think we've been brainwashed by Hollywood that ghosts communicate at a higher frequency than us with different kinds of gizmos and electronics. But when I was a kid in elementary school, we used to play with diode radios. The diode converts AC into DC, and you can use that to pick up radio signals. So you're not picking up ghosts. You could be picking up a radio station.
Then is it possible that these frequencies are the mysterious transmissions of a top-secret numbers station?
So we would expect it with a numbers station that there would be a sequence of words or codes or numbers that would be uttered as part of the message. And in this case, since it just seems to be somebody humming a pop song, doesn't have the qualities that would lead us to believe that this was a numbers station.
In fact, our expert did some digging and discovered that this particular model of microwave comes with a feature where you can record a message.
It seems clear this is an example of the function of that microwave to have this memo recording and playback feature.
And it turns out the microwave in question came with the house.
It is conceivable that there might be recordings left in the memory of the device. Even the most logical explanation here leaves us with some mystery.
Our verdict? We're calling this one a lost recording. Kinda just came with the house. Who made it and why? We don't know. And maybe we don't want to know. Have you read much H.P. Lovecraft? Well, you should. His stories are nearly 100 years old, but they continue to inspire sci-fi nerds and occultists all over the world. But is it possible that cosmic monsters like the ones you'll find here are actually real? And could they be returning? April 10th, 2024, Pilsen, the Czech Republic. The meteorological mapping company Ventusky provides accessible global weather maps to clients around the world. And the internet goes absolutely wild when this giant, ominous image appears on the screen. A huge, dark mass moves north through the water, heading past the southern tip of Africa. It's an area larger than Texas, spanning 2,000 miles. And, according to the reference key, the waves created by this object are over 80 feet high. The shape and movement of this void had many comparing it to one of science fiction's most famous deities.
When this first appeared, there were many who declared it's Cthulhu. Cthulhu is an ancient god that was created by the great horror author H.P. Lovecraft back in the year 1928. It's described as a mountain-sized entity with the head of an octopus, tentacled, clawed hands, and bat-like wings.
According to the story, Cthulhu had been trapped underwater in a forgotten city named R'lyeh, waiting to resurface one day and unleash terror on the land.
Due to Cthulhu's immense size, it's easy to see how people compared it to this mass on this particular map. There are some who think that Lovecraft was some type of savant who was able to look into other realities and draw that information into our world. And so that the idea of Cthulhu was actually real.
One such group, the Typhonian Order, believes that the monsters from Lovecraft's writings were representations of actual beings and extraterrestrials.
One of the common themes throughout Lovecraft's writings is this idea of the great old ones, which were often depicted as ancient deities. They had somehow fallen by the wayside, but they were in a constant struggle to return to power. So were the works of H.P. Lovecraft actually more fact than fiction?
While Lovecraft himself always insisted that the stories of his elder gods were no more than fiction, some fans believe he only did so because both of his parents were committed to psychiatric institutions, and he was fearful of sharing a similar fate if he told what he really knew. Could there be some truth behind these cosmic horrors? And are they connected to this map image? Our experts are ready to share their latest work of non-fiction. Even if you accept that Lovecraft's writings were based on truth, is this even the right place for Cthulhu?
H.P. Lovecraft was an incredibly specific writer. We have an extreme amount of details of Cthulhu. We know where Cthulhu was supposed to live, including the exact coordinates in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Kind of rules this out because what we're seeing is coming from the Eastern Atlantic.
And if something this large was rising from the ocean, wouldn't we certainly know about it?
When I looked at the scale, we've got over 70, 80 feet of wave heights. The wave heights that are being represented are nearly impossible in the natural world. Now, they would happen if there was a volcanic eruption that displaces hundreds and hundreds of tons of rock, but there was nothing happening. So my first thought was there has to be an error in the model.
So we tracked down Pavel Raholik, who worked for the Ventusky Weather Forecasting Service.
Faulty data got into the system. Within a couple of days, they were able to sort of patch the prediction model, and we thought that was it. But within the time, many of those conspiracy theories arrived on social networks, and we were flooded with comments and various theories.
Our verdict? This is a simple modeling error within the Ventusky weather map system. Surprisingly enough, the #1 suspect on the site's comment section wasn't Cthulhu. That honor went to Godzilla. In ancient Egypt, the process of embalming and preparing a mummy took 70 days. Special priests removed organs, applied salt, and wrapped it in linen. But in 2023, when a dead body seemed to have magically mummified much faster without any of these procedures, we knew there was a mystery to unwrap. September 3rd, 2023, Sofia, Bulgaria. The body of a 34-year-old man is found near some train tracks. Police learn that he matches the description of a person missing for 16 days wearing exactly the same clothes. But it's not just the attire that grabs their attention. It's this. Even though he only died sometime in the last 16 days, his skin looks hard and leathery, as though it's been dried out on purpose. In short, he looks like an ancient mummy. Take a closer look at this photograph of his leg. The skin has a parchment-like texture, while the inner organs have dissolved into dark, shapeless masses.
They find that the internal organs have dried out, the fat has disappeared. Coroners were baffled by this body because it didn't decay in a normal way.
But if he's become a mummy, how? Mummification, preserving a body by drying it, doesn't happen quickly. In fact, in ancient Egypt, mummification was a multi-step process that took 70 days. First, the body was washed with water from the Nile. Then the brain was removed, followed by the rest of the internal organs. Next, embalmers packed the body in natron, a naturally occurring salt that dries the body of all moisture and fat. Finally, the body was wrapped, adorned with amulets, and placed in a sarcophagus.
So no one can quite figure out how this person was mummified within 16 days.
This isn't the first modern mummy mystery. In 2016, a German sailor was found mummified on a yacht drifting in the Philippine Sea. Investigators believe he died of a heart attack or stroke and was preserved in the warm, salty ocean air. But that process likely took weeks or even months, not just 16 days. So what happened in Bulgaria? Let's ask the experts. According to the coroners, the deceased man had consumed a lot of alcohol, and some wonder if this might have caused what we're seeing here.
It is unlikely and doubtful that alcohol in the cells and in the bloodstream would help with the mummification process. Alcohol in the body would damage the organs at a cellular level, but it would not help in the preservation of the tissue once the body dies.
Alcohol is out, but could we be seeing cult activity? A bizarre thought, sure, but in 2021, a Colorado cult managed to mummify its deceased leader.
If this guy was mummified by a cult or by some other person, we would see the traditional methods of mummification. We would see something on his skin to help with that skin drying out. We would see other signs that he was purposely mummified. And we don't see this at all.
So how did this man's corpse mummify just 16 days after he was last seen alive?
Investigators discovered that in the 16 days where this man was missing in Sofia, the conditions were exactly the conditions that would be required for precocious mummification, which is a really rare phenomenon where conditions of temperature, solar radiation, humidity, and airspeed accelerate the mummification process. These conditions include a 24-hour daytime temperature greater than 86 degrees, a solar radiation greater than 600 watts per meter squared, a humidity of less than 50%, with wind speeds up to 20 to 30 miles per hour.
And because he ended up next to the rail station, the hot air from the train driving consistently past him dried his skin out, and then the rest of the process just continued to go on. In only 16 days, this gentleman went from being alive to being a mummy.
Our verdict? Precocious mummification. This was an entirely natural, if extremely rare, process. We're just glad the poor guy wasn't the victim of some strange cult. But modern mummies still don't have anything on the ancient Egyptians. Some estimates say, in addition to people, the Egyptians also mummified 70 million animals. The Nazca lines of Peru are world famous for their strange geometric shapes. But on the other side of the world, we found another set of impressive and mysterious markings. The question is, who made them and why? Wadi Wasad, Jordan. In this swath of the Black Desert is an ancient site local Bedouins call the Works of Old Men. It was discovered by Westerners in the 1920s when pilots flying over the desert looked down and saw this. A series of dark circles on the desert floor. They look like enormous wheels. A closer look reveals the circles are made of arranged rocks. Some of the circles are bisected by winding strips of stone, while others seem to have lines resembling spokes. Aerial archaeologist Dr. Robert Bewley recalls the moment he first laid eyes on this majestic site.
It was a wonderful experience to just fly from one to the other to try and understand what they were, because they are unique in this particular landscape. None of them, as far as I'm aware, have been excavated. They're a fascinating, but as yet completely unrevealed in terms of their function.
It's that mystery which has led some to an extraterrestrial explanation.
In the 1968 book Chariots of the Gods, it was speculated that the Nazca lines were actually built as landing sites or as a way for people to communicate with extraterrestrials, which has led others to speculate that perhaps the black wheels of the desert in Jordan are built for the same purpose.
The theory that extraterrestrials might have been present in antiquity isn't new. Sumerian texts speak of a group of godlike beings known as the Anunnaki, who some say were alien visitors. But do we see anything here that suggests an alien influence? First, were one of this area's ancient civilizations behind this?
Jordan has fantastic archaeology, like Petra is the most amazing example. Petra was made by the Nabateans somewhere in the 3rd or 4th century BCE.
The Nabateans were highly resourceful engineers who managed to build an empire in the desert, constructing dams, canals, and reservoirs. Problem is, these circles are way older than the Nabatean culture.
So digging some of these up, we can get a date based on the rock itself. And those dates are coming back very, very early. The earliest of these wheels date back 8,500 years.
We know there were nomadic tribes in the area at the time. So could these be the remains of camps?
Nomadic people, oftentimes they want to band together for safety and they want to be close, but they also need to subdivide that area practically. So another theory of these areas between the spokes is that they are subdivisions of where various clans are living within the property.
Another theory suggests that the wheels may have had the same purpose proposed for another ancient and mysterious rock structure, Stonehenge.
If you go with the idea of Stonehenge being an astronomical clock or an astronomical calendar, then this could be an astronomical calendar that we see from other indigenous people here on Earth. Another hypothesis is that it was actually a compass helping the ancient people navigate through these regions during this time.
But we admit, these are just best guesses. Who knows? Perhaps they were made to communicate with extraterrestrials, real or imagined.
If you look at the unconformity of the structure, it really makes it very difficult to figure out what it initially was designed for. So in the end, when you look at these kinds of structures, all you have is speculation of what actually they were used for and who used them.
On the proof is out there. Is a UFO swimming over Colorado?
What the are those?
Is a poltergeist destroying this office?
To the layperson, this video is the pinpoint definition of paranormal activity.
Did this elephant learn to talk? And you know about the rings of Saturn, but can you solve the mystery of its hexagon? Around the globe are videos.
What are those things? It's moving.
Photos and sounds that defy explanation.
We don't know where they come from, who made them, or how they operate.
What are they?
Some sort of bizarre mutation.
What's exciting is nobody really knows.
Extraordinary claims need extraordinary proof.
I'm Tony Harris, and as a journalist for more than 30 years, I've followed the facts where they take me. Now I'm bringing that spirit of investigation to the world's strangest sounds and images. We'll analyze each one with top experts.
It's a credible case, it's a credible video.
And pass a verdict on what it is.
This video was clearly faked.
The proof starts now. Good evening and welcome to The Proof is Out There. Although famous for its natural beauty, Colorado Springs is also known for its numerous military bases, like the United States Air Force Academy, and its large number of UFO sightings. As our next video will show you, if you want to see something truly unique while visiting the area, I suggest you look up. August 29th, 2021, Colorado Springs, Colorado. Josh Stoner is driving when he spots this in the sky.
That's in the sky right now, everybody.
Two mysterious, somewhat menacing objects hover in the distance. They begin undulating about, independent from one another. In the footage, you can hear Josh's utter confusion, and we understand why.
What the f are those?
Field researcher Ken Gerhardt says these airborne objects move more like something you'd see deep in the ocean.
Whoa, that's crazy. Both of them look like they're alive. It's displaying some tentacles or limbs or something. It actually looks like some type of octopus or squid.
Tentacled creatures from outer space are a common theme in the horror fiction of writers like H.P. Lovecraft. Could it be possible that we are looking at real evidence of interstellar visitors from beyond?
There are actually many reports of what researchers view to be UFOs that are alive. Unidentified flying objects that either look like giant disc-shaped objects made out of flesh, or in some cases, octopus, squid, or jellyfish type of animals that are floating through the air.
Celebrated U.S. astronaut Leland Melvin, who has clocked over 560 hours in space, believes he saw a translucent, curved, organic-looking thing hovering around the payload bay doors during his time on the space shuttle Atlantis in 2009. It's a fascinating theory, but we'd be remiss not to point out the unique area below, which is dotted with military installations and Air Force bases. Could these sites be related to the strange events in the clouds above?
In 2019, the military demonstrated a new type of drone technology. Consisting of microdrones, the drones are a collective organism utilizing one brain for decision-making. And these microdrones actually adapt to each other and interact like a swarm or a hive of individual units.
It was recently reported that the U.S. is developing swarm technology that could be used to thwart a potential Chinese invasion of Taiwan.
If the objective behind this micro-drone technology is to confuse the enemy, then what a better alignment than the shape of a giant octopus or squid flying through the air with flowing tentacles.
Scarily enough, it's not just the military that's using advanced drone technology. Several years ago, a drone carrying 6 pounds of methamphetamines crashed on the U.S.-Mexican border. Local authorities said this was hardly the first time this had happened. To find out more about what's in the skies overhead, we turn to our experts. First things first, we checked in with video authenticator Michael Primo to test the legitimacy of this video.
Using some scientific methodology, we can confirm that these objects are in the air and are traveling throughout the air and were being photographed that way based on the natural movements of the camera at that distance.
So it's real. But what is it? Astronomer and video analyst Mark D'Antonio is doubtful that this is some living UFO.
The problem that I have with that theory is that you can see that in some cases, those tentacles separate from the object and come back.
If we zoom into the video, we can see that this may not actually be a solid singular structure.
You would expect the alien entity to be cohesive, and that tells me that these are separate objects, all working in unison with each other.
So are they tiny drones in a drone swarm? D'Antonio says not so fast.
So with a military drone technology, one of the things you would probably expect is that you'll have one leader and the others will follow. But in this particular case, we're watching the leader change every split second. It's changing all the time. You would expect that there would be one cohesive leader with the rest following in a formation. This is too random.
But before we admit that we're stumped, D'Antonio thinks he knows exactly what this is.
We know in nature that this is something we've seen before. A starling is a small bird. In this particular case, we have hundreds and hundreds of them. They're safe, moving in a flock. One becomes a leader 1 second, another becomes a leader another second.
While it still remains somewhat of a mystery, scientists theorize that starlings move like this in order to confuse airborne predators, like the peregrine falcon.
That is something that looks like this octopus in the sky to people who may not know what this is. And it does look very strange, but that's what we're seeing here, a murmuration of starlings.
Our verdict, a murmuration of starlings. This creature looks so otherworldly because it isn't just one creature, it's many. It wasn't micro drones this time, but given the Space Force installation in Colorado Springs, we're going to keep our eyes on the skies. We're currently living in the second golden age of UFOs, which obviously means there was a first golden age. It happened in the 1940s and 50s, and one of the most compelling pieces of evidence was a photo of a flying saucer that fascinated and perplexed researchers for decades. But was it a UFO or not? It's around 7:30 p.m. on May 11th, 1950 in McMinnville, Oregon. Evelyn Trent goes out to feed her animals behind the farmhouse she and her husband Paul live in. While attending to her chores, she is astonished by what she sees in the sky. She runs towards the house, yelling for Paul to grab their trusty folding camera. They manage to snap 2 photographs. Both photos show a large, metallic-looking, disc-shaped object hovering in the sky. In one shot, power lines can clearly be seen above and below the object. In another shot, the UFO appears to be trapezoidal in shape, with what looks like an antenna or beacon. Journalist Aaron McCarthy says the Trent photos soon become iconic.
The 1950s were considered the golden age of UFOs for a couple of reasons. In June 1947, we have Kenneth Arnold, a pilot, seeing some really strange UFOs over Mount Rainier. And the media coverage of that gave us the term flying saucer. In July of 1947, we have the crash at Roswell, which really kicked UFO mania into high gear in the United States.
Then, in 1948, a veteran combat pilot, George Gorman, reports an altercation with a speeding, glowing orb from the cockpit of his P-51 Mustang over Fargo, North Dakota. By 1950, the floodgates were open.
So in the midst of all of these things, you have the Trent case.
The Trent photos were first published in 1950. They went on to be circulated and scrutinized in newspapers across the country for more than 2 decades. But in 1976, they'd received their most exhaustive analysis yet, when Bruce Maccabee, an optical physicist for the U.S. Navy, conducted his own examination of the negatives.
Bruce Maccabee determined that they were not tampered with in any way. And he also determined that the line of sight for the 2 photos converged behind the power lines, which in his opinion meant that the object was genuine.
The story of what happened to the original negatives is its own controversy. For some reason, Bruce Maccabee held on to them for 25 years. The family thought they'd been lost. A newspaper later claimed ownership, which prompted an ugly legal battle between the paper and the family over this incredible piece of UFO history. You can only imagine what the UFO community makes of all of this. Let's see if our experts can shed any new light on this age-old mystery. First off, we take the photographs to astrophotography expert Andrew McCarthy. He has his doubts about the authenticity of the images.
There's a few ways you can produce this type of effect in camera. throwing a hubcap like a frisbee. But I think that would produce motion blur that would be very evident in the photos. There is another way it could be done, however. You could simply tie an object to the power lines and have it dangle there. Using nylon string, it might not be visible, and it would look like the object was floating some distance away. I think the most likely answer here is there was some small object that resembled a craft that was hung from the power lines in this photo.
But what would the family have to gain by staging such an elaborate hoax? Rich Hoffman, the head of the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies, points out that the Trents never seem to exploit their photos for financial gain.
There was no intent on trying to make money or selling a story. In fact, their belief was that what they were seeing was something that might have been from the U.S. government, and they were questioning whether they should even talk about it at all.
Hoffman acknowledges that our military, as well as others, was experimenting with various exotic flight technologies at the time, including VTOL vehicles, which stands for Vertical Takeoff and Landing Aircraft.
You have the Avro disc that was created to build like a flying saucer kind of platform, which had a jet engine that was pointing down with a large blade that helped to lift the object up.
Hoffman also points out that one examiner's careful scrutiny of the lines of sight and the relative position of the power lines in each photo eliminates the wire dangling theory.
Dr. Bruce Maccabee said if I stood in this spot and I took this photo, and he drew a line to where that line of sight would be. And then he moves over to the next spot where the object is now seen in a different position when it's tilted up. Where the lines would converge at would be beyond the telephone wires, which then indicates that it was not connected to the telephone lines.
Maccabee's analysis proves the two lines of sight don't converge directly under the wires, which is what we'd expect in the case of a hanging model.
So I completely rule out that it's a hoax or anything contrived. And I go with this being a UFO.
Our verdict? We're calling this a genuine UFO, at least for now. The hard math in Hoffman and Maccabee's line of sight analysis seems to blow up McCarthy's power line theory, and a lack of motion blur contradicts any thrown disc theory. The debate proves one thing. While the photos can't be confirmed, they are also quite hard to debunk. We can sometimes be here late investigating stories, but once we're done, we lock up and the next day everything is right where we left it. But we can't say the same for the office we're about to show you. We're in Porto, Portugal, around 2017. It's late at night in the basement office of a completely empty advertising agency. But tonight, someone or something is still here, doing a different kind of business. Look. Security camera footage shows a flickering desk lamp through the doorway of a dark room. Suddenly, the room becomes illuminated. Then out of nowhere, bam! Seconds later, a set of desk drawers goes crazy. Then, the eerie flickering lamp resumes. Journalist Alexis Brooks says at first glance, this looks like the work of a poltergeist.
Poltergeist is a German word that means noisy ghost or noisy spirit.
Most people became familiar with this supernatural being from the 1982 horror film of the same name.
A classic poltergeist situation, you will see doors slamming open and closed, lights going on and off, all of which we saw in this footage.
According to legend, poltergeist can be powerful enough to throw people across rooms and leave visible bite marks. Brooks says the energy of the environment might bring them about.
It's been said that poltergeist activity can actually be produced by extreme emotional effects from a living human being. Could there have been some bad juju going on?
Local legend offers a theory that could be the key to this mystery. Not far from the office was a convent that was home to the last surviving nun from the disbanded Order of the Sal Bento de Ave Maria. It was destroyed to build a train station after her death in the late 1800s, and it's said the nun still seeks revenge against those who brought about her order's extinction.
The question is this nun angry about the demolition of the convent? In certain cultures, the vengeful ghosts are said to be female, so would it be any surprise that this nun roams these halls to this day?
The convent of Sao Bento de Ave Maria was struggling long before the final nun died, and the order was forced to sell its prized silver in the public square. So could the ghost of that angry last nun actually be creating all of this chaos? Let's see if our experts can find the cause of this creepiness. First, physicist Matthew Shadagas analyzes if this could have been seismic activity. Porto is a few hundred miles north of the Gloria Fault, which has triggered several large quakes along the Eurasia-Africa plate boundary.
In the year that this video was allegedly taken, 2017, we don't really have records of any major earthquakes, at least in Portugal. Moreover, some of the effects we're seeing, such as the drawers popping out of the desk right here, seem a bit too localized in order to explain this as a tremor.
Another theory is Porto's coastal tides.
In this area, there are underground springs, which could explain not only what we're seeing in this video, but poltergeist activity claims in general.
In other words, the fast-moving underground water could cause a building's foundation walls and furnishings to shake and shift. But after reviewing the video a few times, Shadagas concludes another explanation is more likely. He notices that the video is telling too perfect a story.
In this video, we have a beginning and an end that refer to each other. We've got the flashing lights, and then at the end, we have that in reverse. That makes for a beautiful visual story. And that's a hint to me that this is a well-choreographed fake video.
What's more, science writer Mick West can demonstrate how this supernatural activity would be easy to reproduce manually with everyday tools.
What I would use for that is just simple fishing line. If you're in just regular office lighting and you're in a relatively low resolution video like you have here, you wouldn't be able to see it. And this can pull quite a lot. I could quite easily pull this drawer open just using some kind of fishing line like I have here.
Another curious detail. The person who gave us this video declined our request for an on-camera interview. So since we couldn't get the person who filmed this clip to admit to staging the action, we may never know the full story. But our verdict is, it's likely a hoax. Our experts say it looks almost too perfect not to be. That said, if you ever find yourself in Porto, head to the Sao Bento station, and you may just catch a glimpse of the ghost of the last nun. We've brought you a number of stories over the years about strange things that have washed up on shore. They often turn out to be sea creatures, but this latest beached object is something else entirely, and it may have a more nefarious purpose. It's February 2023 in the coastal city of Hamamatsu, Japan. Local resident Eihan Katsura has made his way to Inshu Beach to document an unusual object that's washed up on the shore. Eihan's photos and videos reveal a large spherical object embedded in the sand.
そういう大きなものが打ち上がったことが今までなかったものですから、実際どんなものか。
It's almost 5 feet in diameter, made of metal with a light orange hue and darker patches of rust. On the upper right side is a small protruding eyelet hook. Officials surround the sphere wearing protective helmets and masks. Eihan says he just can't fathom how it ended up there.
こんなものがよく流れてきたなっていうか、かなり多分重たい、普通に動かしたりしなかったので。
Journalist MJ Banayas explains that given the location, some wonder if it's an explosive device sent by a nearby geopolitical foe.
A month after this orb washed up on the beach in Hamamatsu City, the North Koreans publicly came out and said that they were testing underwater nuclear-armed drones.
And then we found this. In 2016, images were released showing North Korean leader Kim Jong-un standing next to a purported miniaturized nuclear warhead that looks surprisingly like this washed-up object, if just a little bit smaller. Yet, North Korea is not the only regional power Japan is at odds with.
China has an interest in territorial expansion, and Japan is its closest neighbor. So this could be some sort of surveillance device used by the Chinese to monitor underwater traffic or communications cables.
So, maybe this is a giant spy tool, During the Cold War, the U.S. Navy used vehicles similar in shape to this one to help eavesdrop on the Soviets. In what was known as Operation Ivy Bells, they wrapped a recording device around an undersea cable. But there's another possibility that's even more exotic.
This could be what's called a USO, or an unidentified submersible object. Some people believe that this resembles an object that was recorded by the USS Omaha in the Pacific, basically a round object that crashed into the ocean.
Sightings of USOs are less common than reports of UFOs. But U.S. Navy experts say unidentified submerged objects pose a much greater threat to naval vessels than flying ones. Maybe that's why those Japanese investigators first approached this washed-up orb in protective gear. Their initial examination yielded a few answers. Let's see what our experts can find out. Military analyst Tim McMillan considers whether this object could be an advanced piece of equipment used for deep-sea espionage or surveillance.
Based on the degree of rust on it, this object is most likely iron, possibly steel. That's not really a material that you would see used in any type of underwater espionage, because it would be something that would be highly susceptible to oxidation. And obviously, if you're sneaking in a listening device, this is not something you're going to want to keep going back and forth to repair and fix.
So if this isn't a surveillance device, then could it be a weapon of war from somewhere like North Korea?
North Korea is often involved in all sorts of claims of having weapons capable of delivering nuclear explosions, one of which at least is claimed to be possibly shaped similar to the object we're seeing here in this image. If that was the case, this would just be the warhead component of whatever that is. And I would hardly call it a successful nuclear device if the warhead has separated from the delivery system. We don't have a boom.
Just to be sure, officials eventually x-rayed this mysterious object and discovered that it's hollow, without any explosives inside. So could this actually be a USO created using a sophisticated alien cloaking technology? Again, McMillan says its iron or steel composition suggests otherwise.
It's a very durable material, but it's a very heavy material, and it corrodes rather quickly in underwater or saltwater environments. And so it's not going to be a material that's conducive, really, for any type of exotic extraterrestrial craft.
Archaeologist Ed Barnhart believes this object's exterior design provides the clue to its prosaic purpose.
There's really no distinguishing features on its surface except for two little eyelets, things that look like they could attach a rope or a chain. It now takes a shape that's very well known, and that is mooring buoy. They're these big metal balls that have chains that link them to anchors at the bottom of a deep spot of the ocean.
Our verdict, this is a mooring buoy that was likely floating out far at sea when it got loose from the chain attaching it to a heavy anchor at the ocean floor. That freed the buoy to drift to the shores of Japan. Some biologists believe the reason Australia is home to so many deadly creatures is due to the fact that it's an isolated continent, one that's been drifting through the ocean since breaking off from Antarctica 30 million years ago. It's become a magnet for all forms of resilient species, creating a pretty monstrous ecosystem, as two fishermen found out the hard way. February 2019, Kakadu National Park in Australia. Andrew Rose and T. Hoken are fishing in the Mary River when all of a sudden Andrew's line begins acting strangely. He pulls it from the water, and the friends discover this.
It was certainly a shock. The creature itself, I'd never seen anything like it. No eyes, sharp teeth. Yeah, it was about 6 inches long.
The creature was not hooked in the lure, but rather wrapped itself around it. Andrew made sure to keep his distance as the pair snapped pictures of the strange creature before releasing it back into the Mary River.
We didn't know whether it was going to be toxic or what. I don't know if it's going to bite me, poison me, kill me.
Considering the variety of deadly animals that populate Australia, Andrew was wise not to get too friendly with the unknown creature despite its diminutive stature.
I mean, this is the home of the Irukandji jellyfish, who at only 2 centimeters long still has a venom 100 times more powerful than a cobra. As for this thing, we had to ask field researcher Ken Gerhardt. He says the key to what it is might be where it is.
Where this weird creature was captured is actually in the Mary River in northern Australia. And this is the home to a legendary creature known as the Mary River gharial, a serpentine animal with a very long, skinny head that's shaped like a crocodilian, a long body with 4 paddles, and a long tail. Could this be a juvenile version of the Mary River gharial, perhaps in its larval stage?
In the late 1800s, new settlers to this area were told stories by the local Aboriginals about the monstrous gharial that frequently attacked their women and children. And over the next century, the giant gharial would be reported for overturning boats in the water.
In the 1980s, a local fisherman actually claimed that his boat was rammed by the Mary River gharial.
Gerhardt also explores a more practical theory.
There's also a possibility that what we could be dealing with here is some type of mutated animal. A 2014 expose revealed that rapid industrialization in neighboring Indonesia has led to massive amounts of toxins and pollution being dumped into the river systems. The appearance of strange and grotesque creatures like this one could be an indicator of how bad the situation is getting.
Genetic mutations from toxic environments are nothing new on this show. In the past, we showed you a mutant 2-headed snake that our experts said could very well have been caused by industrial pollution. Is that what spawned this alien-like creature? To find out, we turn to our experts. We first sit down with marine biologist Dr. Shay Steingas to discuss the idea that this mysterious creature is the product of pollution from Indonesia, a theory she finds flawed.
The Mary River flows to the sea, and while we may see offlow of pollutants like fertilizers or chemicals that make their way through this system, oftentimes the impacts of these chemicals end up in the ocean itself because that's where the rivers drain to. So the effects that we would see from those pollutants would probably be offshore and not so much in the animals here.
So then what about the earlier theory that this tiny terror could somehow be related to the legendary Mary River gharial?
Those were prehistoric crocodiles that had paddle-like limbs, but we don't see any kind of limbs on this animal. So this is not a gharial. Rather, this is very clearly a mud-dwelling fish. The fact that it can't see means that it lives in the sediment or under the mud where eyesight really isn't even an asset, it's a liability.
We followed up with biologist Floyd Hayes, who said he can identify not only the type of fish, but the exact species.
You can identify it by the odd-shaped head, and the eyes are covered with skin, and it has a lot of weird bumps and skin folds on the head, and also has a elongated body. So this appears to be a species of worm goby of the genus Taenioides. There are about 13 or 14 species that live in the Indo-Pacific area.
Our experts concur. What we are looking at here is a mud-dwelling fish known as the worm goby. And while it might not be as dangerous as we first thought, I'd still suggest keeping your hands inside the boat while traveling down an Australian river. Elephants might never forget, but they also never talk, right? I mean, we all remember Dumbo, but hang on. Over in Asia, there is a loquacious pachyderm who's got something to say. So listen up. 2012, just outside Seoul, South Korea, sits Everland, the country's largest theme park. Large enough, in fact, that it houses a whole zoo. Within that zoo, 22-year-old Kashik, a young male Asian elephant, is being recorded in a large room. He is a marvel to look at, towering over his handler by several feet. But if we listen closely, it's clear he's even more amazing to hear. Off-screen, his handler tells Kashik, "Jua," good in Korean.
Wow.
Kashik paces a bit and then raises his trunk to his mouth, and according to some, repeats the phrase back. Yeah. Let's hear that again.
Wow.
Yeah. Kashik allegedly knows 6 words, all in Korean, and uses them with regularity.
This clip of Kashik the elephant started circulating in 2006, and it kind of set the world on fire. Kashik was able to speak in Korean. Hello, good, down, lie down, and no.
좋아.
Scientists ran a study, and Korean speakers could actually identify what Kashik was saying. A very smart elephant, but all elephants are smart.
Elephants actually have the largest brain of any land animal and are thought to equal dolphins in terms of problem-solving capability. Nature philosophers like Pliny the Elder believed they were even smart enough to create their own religion.
Pliny thought that elephants actually participated in religious activities because they would wave sticks at and bathe during certain phases of the moon. They exhibit ritual behavior. Elephants will actually stroke the bodies of the dead members of their herd, and they will sit with the bodies for quite some time.
According to journalist Aaron McCarthy, the old expression, an elephant never forgets, is actually quite accurate. Some say these thought-provoking pachyderms are even known to hold a grudge. One instance involves an Indian woman who was rumored to have assisted elephant poachers.
In 2022, a 70-year-old woman in India was trampled by an elephant. According to some reports, the woman had actually been part of a group that had thrown rocks at the elephant in order to take her baby away. She later died of her injuries. At her funeral, it was reported that that same elephant came back and actually trampled her body again, which some have suggested means the elephant was holding a grudge and even seeking revenge.
좋아.
So does this sophisticated behavior mean elephants can learn to talk? Or are these sounds possibly some strange coincidence?
Elephants communicate with each other with a number of sounds and vocalizations. Some have actually wondered, have they evolved to develop a language to communicate with us?
According to ancient Indonesian legend, the orangutan actually can speak, but chooses not to out of fear that humans would enslave him. Could the same be true of the elephant? Our experts aren't working for peanuts, so let's see what they have to say.
Forensic sound analyst Rob Maher says first things first. What we are hearing is not actual talking, but whistling.
When we speak, normally we have air pressure from our diaphragm in our lungs, and in our glottis we have vocal folds or vocal cords, and the air that's being forced between them vibrates. Now, a whistle is not involving the glottis. It's in the upper part of our mouth. A person can either just use their lips and blow or use their fingers. But apparently, this elephant is able to use the shape of the trunk in such a way to create these whistling sounds. And so we are able to interpret this interesting whistly sound as if it's an actual word.
Biologist Stephanie Menke doesn't question Kashik's advanced intelligence, but Menke is skeptical that what we are seeing here is a real-life talking elephant.
Elephants vocalize a lot with each other. Typically, their sounds are infrasonic, which means that they are below the level of human hearing. And this elephant created these sounds so that we could hear them and probably looked for the human reaction. Most likely, it is mimicking words that have been said by the trainer.
In fact, Asian and African elephants have both been documented mimicking a variety of sounds, including crickets and truck engines. A peek into Kashik's past may reveal what motivated him to create these sounds.
Kashik was separated from the rest of his herd at age 5. He was alone for a long part of his youth. Elephants are very social creatures. I do think that this elephant was trying to mimic sounds that it heard other humans saying to each other to get attention.
Our verdict? We're calling this a case of mimicry and bonding. Kashik is one smart elephant, but he's not fluent in Korean smart. He doesn't know the sound Joa means good, but he does know it creates a good connection with the humans around him. And hopefully he gets the love and attention an elephant of his intellect deserves. You've probably heard of Earth's polar vortices. They are large swaths of cold winds that circle around both of the poles. Here, they're shaped pretty organically with a swirling motion. But look just a billion miles away, give or take, And you'll find that Saturn has its own polar vortex, and the one in the north sure looks like it was designed purposely by something intelligent.
It's 2007, above the northern hemisphere of Saturn. The Cassini spacecraft is beaming data back to Earth, showing a glimpse of Saturn's northern hemisphere. But what's that almost perfectly equilateral polygon there, above the North Pole? British planetary scientist Lee Fletcher was amazed when he first observed this shape for himself.
When the hexagon jumped out at me, I was gobsmacked. The question of what caused that is one that still holds a lot of mystery.
Take another look. Saturn is known for its rings, but this hexagon is really bizarre. No other planet has anything like it. Science writer Amy Teitel says Lee was the first to see the hexagon during Saturn's long winter, but it's been mystifying scientists for years.
This hexagon shape on Saturn's North Pole was first discovered by the Voyager satellites in the 1980s, so it's been present on Saturn for decades.
What's strange is it seems to have changed color from blue to gold, and it appears much larger than originally thought. So why is it here? To some, it's evidence of a spiritual belief known as sacred geometry.
Sacred geometry is the idea that certain shapes and patterns appear like that for a reason. According to sacred geometry, the hexagon represents a potential for life. One of the most sacred shapes is the flower of life, which is a shape created of 19 identical overlapping circles. We see this going back as far as the ancient Hindu and Christian cultures.
But what or who could have created this seemingly deliberate form above Saturn? Author Jason Martell has an idea.
We know that humans are capable of weather manipulation, such as cloud seeding. It's very possible that aliens would have similar technology. This hexagonal vortex could be some type of delivery mechanism for the potential of life.
Think about that perfect monolith from 2001: A Space Odyssey. It wasn't just a cool geometric artifact. It was a mechanism for advancing intelligent life. Could this sacred hexagon be something similar? It sounds like a stretch, but some think life may already be advancing near Saturn.
Saturn's moon Titan is one of the most interesting places for a lot of people to look for life because it's chemically very similar to early Earth, and it's got a lot of the things that we think life needs to thrive.
The hexagonal formation could actually be a key to unlocking secrets of the universe.
Mathematicians say the hexagon is nature's most efficient shape. With mechanically balanced angles at 120 degrees each, it can hold the most weight with the least amount of material. But is Saturn's hexagonal vortex proof that there is more to the shape? Our experts explore all the angles.
This hexagonal shape isn't actually visible on any of the other planets in our solar system. It's truly unique to Saturn. It's almost like a snowflake in its precision and its beauty.
So it is unique. But is that proof it's the result of intelligent design?
That hexagon looks like it's something that might have been created artificially. But this is a natural resonance that's based on the way the bands on Saturn operate and the way the atmospheric currents flow.
And NASA geologist Dr. Bob Anderson thinks he can explain how and why it was created.
This atmosphere is a fluid of gas. And so as it's rotating, it has what's called surface tension between the particles. When two particles rub against each other, they have like a tension to them. The hexagon shape will fall out when fluids of different densities flow past each other. And when they harden, they form a hexagon shape because it's the most efficient way to get into a stable configuration when you're using gas and liquids. In order to get this hexagon there, all the conditions have to be right.
But how could the perfect conditions last for decades?
These structures are so ingrained into the atmosphere that they remain very constant. A perfect example is Jupiter. The Great Red Spot has been seen since around the time of Galileo.
And why has the hexagon changed colors since the end of 2012? Planetary scientist Lee Fletcher says the key is understanding that it takes more than 7 Earth years for seasons to change on Saturn.
As sunlight returns to those springtime northern latitudes, you get these smoggy particles being created by chemistry high up within the atmosphere that started to fill in the center of the hexagon and making it appear gold.
Tonight on The Proof is Out There. Have Japanese researchers found proof of the megalodon?
We're going to need a bigger boat. This thing is obviously a shark, and it's huge.
Has a retired military officer found proof of alien life near the sun?
If aliens wanted to visit Earth, this is probably how they would do it.
Do these stones prove the Mayans met ancient astronauts?
If this is a real carving, it would be one of the most significant archaeological finds in history.
And a haunting image in the clouds. Is this figure from another dimension?
At 30,000 feet, I expected to see clouds, not a figure standing.
Around the globe are videos.
What are those things?
It's moving.
Photos and sounds that defy explanation.
We don't know where they come from, who made them, or how they operate.
What are they?
Some sort of bizarre mutation.
What's exciting is nobody really knows.
Extraordinary claims need extraordinary proof.
I'm Tony Harris, and as a journalist for more than 30 years, I've followed the facts where they take me. Now I'm bringing that spirit of investigation to the world's strangest sounds and images. We'll analyze each one with top experts.
It's a credible case, it's a credible video.
And pass a verdict on what it is.
This video was clearly faked.
The Proof starts now. Good evening and welcome to The Proof is Out There. If there's one thing we love to talk about on this show, other than UFOs and Bigfoot, of course, it's sharks. They're big, they're scary, truly mysterious creatures. And this next one might just be the most internet-famous shark in history. And you're about to see why. October 4th, 2016, a video is posted on Facebook, allegedly recorded in the Mariana Trench, the deepest part of the ocean situated to the south of Japan. It's a dark, foreign world, but this time it's not the strange environment that has captured people's attention. We see a large cage said to be a discarded anti-shark diving cage, which can average between 8 and 13 feet in length. Entering on the left is a large fish that many estimate to be around 6 feet in length. Then suddenly, a giant visitor arrives, knocking aside the smaller sea life. A shark that dwarfs the cage entirely, swimming slowly into the frame. He pokes and prods with his snout before losing interest and swimming away. Let's see that again. If that cage is between 8 and 13 feet across, we are looking at a shark of monstrous proportions, possibly exceeding 60 feet in length. Field researcher Ken Gerhardt takes a look at this subaquatic colossus.
Now, since currently known species of sharks obtain these lengths, one can then make an argument that what we're looking at here, as remarkable as it sounds, is actually a surviving representative of a prehistoric shark called Megalodon.
The Megalodon was a species of massive shark that went extinct during the Pliocene era. Experts say they could grow to be over 50 to 60 feet long. They would make meals out of humpback whales, and with an estimated jaw size of 9 by 11 feet, they could potentially swallow 2 full-sized human beings in one gulp.
The average depth of the Earth's oceans is 12,000 feet. But in this particular location, known as the Mariana Trench, which has been estimated to be 7 miles deep. So if you factor in the location, the fact that the Mariana Trench is literally so deep that anything could be there, it builds a pretty strong case that this thing could actually be, potentially, a surviving megalodon.
There's been one more thing that's been bugging those who have studied this video on the web.
Some observers of this video have noted that there appears to be some type of device placed around the shark's eye, almost like a sort of tracking device. This has opened up all types of speculation about the possibility that the Japanese government may be aware of the existence of Megalodon and may in fact be tracking this particular animal for scientific purposes.
Did you know the word megalodon derives from the Greek meaning giant tooth? It checks out. These guys' teeth were each roughly the size of your hand. We know this thing was big enough to inspire the popular movie series, but is it still really swimming? Let's go deep with our experts.
First things first, wildlife biologist and shark enthusiast Floyd Hayes tells us that this video is a great example of viral stories taking on a life of their own.
The large shark that appears in this video footage was allegedly filmed in the Marianas Trench, and it represents a classic case of video taken for scientific research that's been exaggerated in the media.
A rediscovered Japanese posting of this video from 8 years earlier reveals a completely different location on where this actually took place.
This was actually taken in Suruga Bay in Japan in water less than a mile deep. What we're seeing here is a bait cage, not a diving cage, and a large shark is trying to get the food out of it. A baited cage is about 3 to 4 feet wide.
When we take a closer look, the cage does have dimensions more comparable to a bait cage than a diving cage, which usually has enough room to house several people. Marine biologist Shay Steingass agrees with Dr. Hayes that this cage is much smaller than purported, but that doesn't mean this isn't a big animal.
Each segment of that cage is at least a few feet. Just looking at the head itself, that's at least a few feet just to the gills. So it's possible this animal could be 20 feet or even bigger.
So the age-old question remains, what is it? According to Steingass, the answer lies with the strange object many claim to be a tracking device.
From what I can tell looking at this footage, this is a Pacific sleeper shark. And there's one key feature that really allows me to guess that, and that's this parasite that co-evolved with this species.
Wait a second, did she say parasite?
Some people have hypothesized that this animal has tracking devices or something attached to it, and that's not what we're seeing here. This parasite is called Ometacoida elongata, which is a parasitic copepod that develops in the eye of the shark. Eventually, the shark will go blind from this parasite, but that's not a huge issue for the shark because it doesn't use its vision a lot. We actually don't know very much about the Pacific sleeper shark at all. We haven't really found a mature specimen.
Our verdict, this is a Pacific sleeper shark. But just because it's been named and classified doesn't end the mystery. These creatures are closely related to the Greenland shark, which can live up to 500 years. So for all we know, this same shark will still be swimming long after we're all gone. SETI, an organization dedicated to the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, spends time and money pointing giant radio telescopes at distant galaxies. But maybe there's no need to search light years away. One man thinks he may have uncovered evidence of advanced intelligence a mere 94 million miles from here, at the center of our own solar system. From 2006 to 2022, David Toon, a retired Army aviation officer, has been conducting imagery analysis on NASA-archived solar satellite photos. He's reviewed over 5 million and has singled out more than 50,000 that he thinks show suspicious events or objects. Look closer. Set against the soft plumes of energy are hard-edged objects in various colors, shapes, and sizes, all hovering in close proximity to the sun. David believes these are examples of technosignatures, which are defined as signs of intelligent life beyond our Earth.
The images indicate there is a more organized pattern to these objects. The lines, the shapes are all basic evidence that there's intelligence behind it. It's not just a natural phenomenon.
Investigative journalist MJ Benaya says there are many who support the theory of a solar-based civilization. In fact, in 2016, scientific journal Acta Astronautica published researcher Clement Vidal's groundbreaking abstract entitled Stellivore Extraterrestrials, Binary Stars as Living Systems.
Clement Vidal speculates that life could evolve to use solar energy to fuel itself. He refers to these creatures as stellivores.
These theoretical star eaters would actively feed on stars like the sun.
Much like we consume organic material to fuel our bodies, there could possibly be alien life out there that uses solar energy to fuel itself.
Today, as the SETI Institute continues the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, it is giving credence to the Stellivore theory.
First, physicist Matthew Shadagis immediately takes a bite out of the Stellivore theory.
The reason why I don't think this is applicable to our current situation is that in the Stellivore model, that is an explanation for certain binary star systems.
A binary star system occurs when two stars orbit a shared center of mass, making them gravitationally bound to one another. Shadagis explains that Vidal actually envisioned Stellivores as one half of this kind of system.
One of the members of a binary star system is an actual star, whereas the other apparent star is actually some sort of advanced construction or artificial structure that is taking energy out of the star.
Of course, our solar system doesn't have two suns.
Since our solar system is not a binary system, this is not really an applicable hypothesis to the current situation.
Then could it be another kind of alien structure? Perhaps the beginnings of a Dyson sphere? This megastructure, dreamed up by theoretical physicist Freeman Dyson, would surround stars and harvest their power for its alien engineers. But again, Shadagis doesn't see it, because he doesn't see solid structures in these shapes at all.
We could be looking at natural gases, plasma, or other things coming out of the sun together with a camera artifact that makes that chunk of gas look more geometric than it actually is.
And astrophotography expert Andrew McCarthy agrees, noting that while NASA only employs state-of-the-art cameras, those cameras do have their limitations.
I think the most likely culprit is simply a camera artifact. The goal behind this CCD technology used by NASA is to just preserve the data it's collecting, but it has a side effect. As these specific camera pixels fill up, they tend to bleed into the surrounding areas. Sometimes that creates unusual shapes in the photos. It's not a sign of any kind of object floating out there near the sun. It's just a sign of how the technology actually works.
But Shadagis says the sun continues to spark intrigue.
Recently, we had an example in the news of a coronal mass ejection. Headlines around the world read things like, "Piece of the sun breaks off and forms a vortex and scientists are baffled." And this just underscores how there are natural phenomena that the sun produces that can still baffle us. That doesn't mean they're paranormal or extraterrestrial.
Our verdict? These are unexplained solar images. While we agree with McCarthy that some of these images may be easily explained by camera artifacts, we can't prove it for all of them. We also can't say for certain if this is or is not a natural solar phenomenon. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence has now gone on for more than 60 years with no luck. But nobody's giving up. After all, there are still hundreds of billions of stars to investigate. In the past, we have examined paintings, hieroglyphs, and cave art to search for signs of extraterrestrial visitation. But do these next images actually show ancient people interacting with alien life forms? It's March 2017 in the rainforest of Huatusco in the Mexican state of Veracruz. Explorer Jose Aguayo and his colleagues are checking out some caves when they come across something that needs to be seen to be believed.
El encontrar esta cueva para mí fue algo nuevo y diferente y que quizá fue lo que cambió completamente todo.
Jose begins documenting the cave walls and floor, which are covered in intricate carvings. And in a nearby river, they stumble upon something even more compelling, this triangular piece of jade. On the left is a typical Mayan leader wearing a traditional headdress, but on the right is what looks like an alien being. The two appear to be exchanging gifts, and above the figures is a craft that looks shockingly like a UFO. Jose says the people who led them to this spot did so for a very specific reason.
Y nos decía, aquí, a esta cueva, realmente que cayó una nave ahí y que después de eso veían unos chaparritos
Author and lecturer Jason Martell says the artifacts Jose's group found at this site have been nicknamed the Stones of the First Encounter.
Some of the people that discovered these artifacts went on to theorize that there was some type of an interaction and exchange happening between the Mayans and the extraterrestrials. And maybe there's still in existence in part of these caves extraterrestrial technology.
But Martell says this isn't the first time people have claimed aliens visited Mesoamerica.
There was a 1,000-year-old Mexican cemetery unearthed while some locals were trying to create an irrigation channel. And the discovery was of over a dozen of these very elongated skulls, very similar to these jade aliens.
Martell notes that many people see a resemblance between this image and multiple accounts of gray aliens, known for their gray skin, bulbous heads, small bodies, and black almond-shaped eyes. And he says there may be other references to alien encounters in ancient Mayan texts.
The former minister of tourism for the Mexican state of Campeche went on record confirming the discovery of extraterrestrial life. He also mentions that there are perhaps 3,000-year-old landing pads hidden in the jungle, and that there are ancient Mayan codices that have been hidden from the public, which clearly discuss extraterrestrial contact.
Even one of the most well-known Mayan codices, the nearly 1,000-year-old Dresden Codex, includes advanced knowledge of astronomy and celestial bodies. So could these Mayan jade stones have been carved to commemorate an interplanetary visit? Let's see what our experts can dig up.
Anthropologist Kathy Strain looks into whether the alien-like skulls found in the cemetery help support the idea this is an alien on the jade stone.
These bodies that we have found that have elongated skulls do look very alien, but of course once we do the DNA and we know the culture, we know for certain that these people are human. It is just a cultural practice known as head binding, where the distortion of the cranium is important to that culture. Generally, only those with power in that culture do this.
So the elongated skulls aren't from alien visitors. But our question is, do these artifacts truly document Mayans interacting with extraterrestrials? Archaeologist Dr. Ed Barnhart says the stone wasn't discovered in the right area if it really is depicting an alien and a Mayan leader.
The location where it's found is in what we call Mesoamerica, a very large area of a patchwork of civilizations. But it is not in the Maya area. The Maya area kind of radiates out from where Guatemala is into Belize, Honduras, Yucatan, Chiapas, but Veracruz is far outside of the Maya area.
He adds that the material it's made of is also surprising.
If it is indeed jade, it's the largest piece of carved jade I've ever seen in Mesoamerica. It's huge. Jade is nowhere near Veracruz. They'd have to import that from hundreds of miles away, and the vast majority of jade objects that I've seen carved are something you could hold in the palm of your hand.
What's more, Strange says this isn't up to the usual aesthetic standards of the Maya.
The Mayans were very artistic. These really come off as being very simple, very crude. They come off as being stereotypical of what you would see in a 1950s alien film.
Strain adds that the piece has yet to be put under a microscope to be accurately dated.
The National Institute of Anthropology and History of Mexico have not authenticated these artifacts. And so until they do so, I do not put any stock that these are real artifacts from the Mayans. I would like to believe that these are artifacts, but I believe they're more artifictions.
Our verdict? These are likely fake artifacts. The stones are inconsistent with Mayan traditions, and nothing else like them has been found elsewhere in Mexico. So their age and authenticity remain in doubt, at least for now. We have all heard the expression walking on a cloud, which basically describes a feeling of blissful happiness. It's just a saying, right? But someone or something may be taking it literally. Check this out. It's December 2015 in the skies above Europe. Irish workforce manager Nick O'Donoghue is on board a flight from Austria to London's Gatwick Airport when he sees something strange out of his window.
was a beautiful, clear day, and in the distance I could see an unusual looking shape in the clouds, and so I tried to zoom in as close as possible to get a good enough picture of it.
Nick's uncanny photo shows what appears to be a looming humanoid form stalking the clouds at 30,000 feet. The large, imposing figure with a broad torso, small head, and short legs appears to cast a long shadow.
I really had no idea what it was. My initial thought was, it looks a bit like the Michelin Man, you know?
There's also another legendary being known to inhabit the clouds in this region. That would be the Brockengespenst, or Brockenspectre, often seen on Germany's Brocken Peak. It's said to be an evil spirit taking the form of a shadow ringed by a rainbow halo. Or perhaps this is another elusive otherworldly being, like those some associate with the South American cloud warriors, the Chachapoya tribe of the Andes. These advanced ancient cloud people are known for creating strange humanoid statues that rest on a cliff face above the Utcubamba River Valley, and a site that's almost 700 years older than Machu Picchu. Science writer Amy Title says these sarcophagi have an appearance that is atypical for the region, leading some to suggest they depict a cloud-based non-human intelligence.
Could these statues be depicting extraterrestrials that interacted with locals sometime in the 11th or 12th century? The area where they were found is high in the mountains and is quite isolated. So the idea is, if there was some kind of extraterrestrial that interacted with this community, could they have learned from them?
Let's take a closer look at this strange formation. You can see that it's smaller than the surrounding clouds. But of course, our perspective is distorted since it's a view from a plane. Given how high the plane is, this could be thousands of feet tall. Let's consult our experts.
We turn first to meteorologist Juan Hernandez to consider the obvious explanation. Could it just be a natural formation in the clouds?
When comparing this figure to something natural, like a cumulus cloud or a cumulonimbus cloud, oftentimes it's one single plume. In this case, we have two plumes coming out of a very close location. And if we take a look at the base, we see a gap between them. If it was natural, there would be no gap.
So then could this actually be something from out of this world? Well, not so fast. Hernandez believes there's no indication it's an actual humanoid being.
As an atmospheric scientist, I can say that this is something that is not solid matter. It's part of the atmosphere. We can tell that there's quite a bit of contrast between the rising plume and the surrounding area. The plume we have here is air that is ascending.
Of course, there's a chance an advanced alien intelligence could manifest as a cloud, but science writer Mick West thinks he's found a more likely explanation.
I think we're looking at a bunch of chimneys and they're releasing some kind of smoke or water vapor into the air in the form of clouds. So the most likely thing, I think, is some type of power station, because power stations have these very tall smokestacks.
And West may have pinpointed exactly which smokestacks are responsible.
The Doel power station in Belgium, because we have these two very dramatic cooling towers, and most of what they are releasing is plumes of condensation of water vapor in this type of shape.
Our verdict? These are cooling tower plumes. The ancient mystery of the cloud warriors of the Andes remains and requires much further study. As for whether non-human intelligence might exist up in our atmosphere, for that answer, history. And its government keeps a public record of sightings. In 2020, the number was 1,243, a notable uptick from the previous year, continuing a trend that goes back decades. But of all those sightings over all those years, there may be none as famous as this.
November 7th, 1990. It's just after 7 p.m. in downtown Montreal, Canada. A guest is enjoying an evening swim in the rooftop pool at the Bonaventure Hotel, when suddenly she looks up into the sky and sees this. Look closely. 4 strange glowing green lights seem to point outward from the center like spokes, while 2 bright yellow lights can clearly be seen in the center of the object. The woman notifies management, and soon a group of people, including the police, come to the hotel rooftop. As the crowd gathers, initial estimates among witnesses place the lights at least 1,000 feet above the hotel.
The Bonaventure UFO incident was very unique because almost 30 people saw this strange object in the sky hovering above this hotel. And more bizarrely, this hovers above this hotel for 2 or 3 hours, and you would assume people in the city would see it. But the only people who were able to see this were the people on the roof of the hotel or on the sidewalk just outside it when they looked up.
Additionally, no aircraft was identified in that location by military or commercial radar. So what happened, and why this specific hotel?
2 UFO researchers were able to comprise a report quite quickly after the encounter, and they were able to collect significant witness testimony.
The witnesses all described to investigators a craft that matches what's seen in the photograph.
This story has everything. And when you get a whole bunch of people telling the same story, it's going to automatically draw a lot of attention.
Montreal's Hotel Bonaventure is nestled on the top 2 floors of the sprawling 17-story Place Bonaventure. When it first opened in 1967, it was the world's largest commercial building at 3.1 million square feet, more than the Empire State Building. So perhaps the reason the alleged UFO in 1990 selected the Hotel Bonaventure was its size. But is it even a UFO? We asked our experts to take a look.
Basing it on the image here, possibly a helicopter that has a searchlight or some type of bright lights attached to it, but you would be able to see the warning lights that are on helicopters. Also, you can hear helicopters from miles away. They're loud, especially one that is hovering for 3 hours. That's a long time. But none of the eyewitnesses mentioned hearing a helicopter. So we could be looking at a drone, but this photograph was taken in 1990. The military level drone technology was still in its infancy. And frankly, if we were looking at military testing drone technology, you don't do that over civilian populated areas.
In fact, Tim McMillan believes if it is a flying machine, it's not one we know of.
We're able to rule out fixed-wing planes because they can't hover. I don't know of any good aerospace platform that would be able to fit both what we're seeing in the picture and what eyewitnesses said.
Is it possible location plays a factor? Meteorologist Juan Hernandez notes that Canada is well known for one of the most spectacular natural phenomena on Earth.
My initial thought was, could it be the Aurora Borealis? But Aurora Borealis often move and are quite transient. In this case, the report was a stationary light that lasted for several hours.
But the hazy nature of the photo does lead Hernandez to investigate if Mother Nature could still be playing a role.
I was able to track down the weather observations from that day. We do have temperatures that were actually about 30 to 34 degrees while this was occurring, but the relative humidity itself was somewhat on the high side. So whenever you have something like this, you oftentimes develop either some sort of fog or low clouds.
For astronomer and video effects designer Mark D'Antonio, that may be the key to solving this mystery.
I believe that we're seeing a reflection back from the clouds, the fog, that look like something else. So these lights could have been lights from the pool and from some other lighting around the Bonaventure Hotel, reflecting up into the sky and then down to the pool again.
It's a plausible theory, but if it was the reflected pool light, wouldn't the guests and police there that night have put 2 and 2 together? Plus, consider this. It's been 30 years. There have been many foggy nights in Montreal in that time, and if it's a reflection, it's one that's never been seen again.
Whenever you're trying to form a really good investigation, you're testing different hypotheses, but I'm inclined to believe that multiple, potentially up to 80 witnesses, someone would have been able to determine if it was a light being reflected categorically, based on the image and what the eyewitnesses said, it is a UFO.
Our verdict, we're going with genuine UFO. As McMillan says, while there are plausible theories, in our view, we still don't have a smoking gun. The Hotel Bonaventure incident is still considered one of the most famous UFO sightings in Canada. So much so that in 2020, it was depicted on a $20 silver glow-in-the-dark coin. In every episode, we do a call out asking you for videos you think we should investigate. We asked, and you answered. This next video arrived via tweet from one of our dedicated proof viewers, and as soon as I saw it, I gotta say, I definitely had some questions too.
September 24th, 2022. Chad Turner and his girlfriend are enjoying a leisurely evening stroll outside their apartment complex in West Chester, Pennsylvania. But then, at about 7:30 p.m., something strange in the sky grabs their attention.
Me and Anna are here looking at something. We don't know what it is.
Chad quickly breaks out his cell phone and captures this.
What is that?
A bright, white dot moves slowly above the trees. A closer look reveals it's emitting beams of light that appear to form a peculiar arrow-like shape. As a fan of the show, Chad knows what to do next. He starts to break down the possibilities.
That's not an airplane. That's like too bright to be a plane. You see the aura around it? That's crazy. We were kind of awe-stricken by it, but at the same time, we were a little nervous, too. You know, because you don't know where this thing is going to go.
Chad follows the object until suddenly it disappears.
It's gone, not here.
Yo, that's crazy.
Is it possible Chad captured a genuine UFO? Writer Amy Title says it's not the first time a strange streaking light has been spotted in the skies over Pennsylvania.
On December 9th of 1965, an acorn-shaped fireball fell through the sky and landed in a wooded area near the small town of Kecksburg, Pennsylvania. This was so bright that people saw it in 6 states and even in Canada. It was such a powerful landing that observers heard the crash and felt the ground shudder when it impacted.
Title says the crash area was later sealed by the U.S. Army, who told everybody there was nothing in the woods.
It wasn't until 40 years later that the U.S. government and NASA said that the object had in fact been a downed Soviet satellite. A lot of people who saw the fireball didn't accept this as the explanation and were convinced that it was something extraterrestrial.
Let's take a closer look at Chad's video. What I find most fascinating about this object is the triangle-like shape of the vapor trail left behind. This angle right here is almost a perfect 90 degrees. It's definitely unlike any exhaust pattern I've ever seen. But let's find out what our experts think. While we encourage viewers to send us videos, we also need to make sure we're not getting punked. So first, we send Chad's footage to video forensic analyst Michael Primo.
There was an abundance of specific metadata throughout the file, and because it retained the GPS information, that's significant in terms of processing. Because if this was something that was fabricated, for example, or CGI'd, we wouldn't have that data. I detect no evidence to suggest that this is been fabricated or manipulated.
Okay, we have a legit video. But of what? Could it be a UFO? We asked Rich Hoffman of the Scientific Coalition of UAP Studies.
I certainly can understand why people would consider it to be a UFO or something unusual, but there's no instantaneous acceleration. All you see is a very consistent movement across the sky. There's nothing extraterrestrial in my looking at that.
If it's not a UFO, could it be another kind of extraterrestrial visitor? It's a possibility that Chad considered.
You know what I'm wondering, if that's a shooting star.
Shooting star?
But Rich Hoffman has doubts.
Meteors basically last a few seconds, and it would have been a long trail of a flame or something like that coming back from the bottom. But the effect in the atmosphere that you see is very, very symmetrical.
Military aviation expert Tim McMillan believes it's that symmetrical contrail that provides an important clue.
We see a more consistent, dense contrail that's coming behind it. So this tells me we're seeing a lot of the telltale signs of this is a man-made object that's burning fuel.
Rather than something falling down to Earth, McMillan sees evidence for something going up.
To me, it definitely had characteristics that led me to believe this was probably a SpaceX launch because of the interesting cone and shape that we see here.
Hoffman adds that a rocket also explains why Chad and his girlfriend quickly lost sight of the object behind a row of trees.
What happens is the first stage, separation, and then there's a second stage, and then it separates. It cuts off the engines. So as they're moving to the other side of the tree, you don't see any effects because it's not burning the engines any longer.
Ultimately, McMillan says the records confirm the theory.
In checking when this was filmed, we could say with a high degree of certainty is the launch of a Falcon 9 SpaceX rocket out of Cape Canaveral, Florida, carrying Starlink satellites into the Earth's atmosphere.